Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. My name's Kyle. In tonight's video, I'm just going to do a quick waiver wire watch list for, I think it's week 14 of the fantasy basketball season. I'm going to look at a couple things here. I do have a watch list that I've curated, so we'll check that in a second, but I did want to kind of just show you guys and remind you how I filter and look through the players to find guys that I want to add. I think one of the first things I do is I go ahead and for this video, I went and hit all players that are available so we can kind of make and look at things at a wider perspective. But what we want to do is you want to hit this plus minus. So it's going to show you guys that have been dropped a lot in the last few days, and it's going to, if you hit it again, it'll show you guys that have been added the most. So Fernando Simon's the number one player here on the list, 21.1%. Up is his stock right now, so 42.3% rostered. He's a guy that needs to be rostered at this point. He's going to probably be a huge piece going forward for fantasy basketball. He's only averaging 22 points on the season, but if you look at, again, his last 7 days, like look at his last handful of games, we're looking at a huge piece of the Portland Trailblazers going forward. So you see a 50-point game in here, a 40-point game, a 44-point game, and another 54-point game. So some massive points, massive minutes. He's a good scorer. He's a good assist man as well. So the number one pickup of the week remains Fernando Simon's here. Number 2 on the list is Vanderbilt, the Minnesota Timberwolves. He ranks 17th right now for power forwards, which is a pretty good spot to be. He's got a game going on right now. Doesn't look like it's going very well, but he has been playing very well over the last couple of weeks here. No games below 20 fantasy points. That's kind of the cutoff that I like for 8 and 10-man leagues, averaging 29 points per game on the season. Over the last 7 days, though, he has been kind of lower, but again, he's still one of the most added players here, and he's only 22% rostered, so he should be scooped up for sure. I'm going to skip some of these guys here because they should be added, or they should be likely owned in a lot of leagues. But if you can get Josh Giddey, Robert Covington, RJ Barrett, Mitchell Robinson, Jalen Brunson here, even Desmond Bane. These guys are all well above 60+% roster. But if you can get any of these players, I highly recommend doing so. Just for the sake of this video, I want to focus on some guys that are not really well owned. The first guy on the list is going to be Otto Porter Jr. He's averaging 30 points per game over the last 7 days. You look at these 2 scores that he put up here the last couple games, 38 and a 42. And I guess if these are his lows, these are some pretty good numbers. If you're just looking at this whole box score here, he did put up a 12 and 18, but I think you're going to be okay with that if he's putting up 30s and 40s every now and then. So Otto Porter Jr., definitely a guy you want to put on your list. And again, he's been added, well over 5%. Over the last 7 days. And there's just a handful of more guys, but what I want to do now is we're going to begin to filter out and look at my curated watch list. And what I've done here is I went through and I just made a big list here, and I just found the guys that were averaging the most points per game, and we'll take a look at it this way. So looking at the top of the list here is Jalen Brunson. Again, he's 63% rostered, but he needs to be scooped up right now. He's been healthy and playing some of his best ball of the season so far. So he's a guy that's, again, 63% rostered, but he's been balling out. So if you play in 8 or 10-man leagues, scoop him up. There's Simons. Again, we talked about Robert Covington. And for some reason, Omer Yurtseven here, the Miami Heat center, remains to be a low-owned guy here. I don't understand it. I'm sure the return of Bam Adebayo from a 6-week absence was always expected to have a negative. So he went unused off the bench on Monday. So he didn't even get any minutes on Monday here. So this is interesting. With Bam Adebayo back, we see Yurtseven just completely left on the bench. So I think for now, you want to keep an eye on him. I don't think we're going to see this going forward. He's been a really productive player for the Heat the last few weeks. So just keep an eye on Yurtseven there. Let's see if he can get some playing time going forward. Now that Bam Adebayo is back. And if anything happens to Adebayo, we're going to know that Yurtseven needs to be added. So keep an eye on him. You got Jaylen Tate here. He's only about 30% rostered. He did put up a big 50-point game and a 40-point game. I think with a guy like this, you're going to want to add him and just take the highs with the lows. He does have, an 11, a 17, but for the most part, he's going to be averaging a good amount of points per game here. Over the last 7 days, he's at about 35.5, and that's because 2 massive games there. So just take the bad with the good with a player like Jaylen Tate. Chris Boucher, under 60% rostered here. He's averaging 34.6 points per game over the last 7 days. And looks like he's back, 38, 36 minutes. This was a hot, popular pick last year. He kind of tailed off towards the middle to the end of the season as the Raptors did themselves. But Boucher, 3 of his last 4 games have been a hit. Maybe 5 of his last 6, games have been fantastic. So this is a guy trending in the right direction. He's going to be, a flirt with double doubles almost every night, and the blocks are going to be there. Not much for assists, and the steals come in kind of bunches here. But Chris Boucher might be the last time to get a player of this caliber. He's going to be a helpful piece down the stretch. Amir Kofi. Now, this guy's interesting. I'm not sure what to make of him. He has popped up on my waiver wire list for a while here. He did have kind of some lows at the beginning of January, but you look at this all these numbers that you see on the right side here, these actually look pretty good. Especially these last 4 games here. I like that the minutes are up 36, 32, 26, and 43. The points have been up as well. And he's a guy that's going to get rebounds and assists and steals. So even if the points aren't there, he's still going to be useful. And basically, this is kind of his floor, this 15, 16 point range, which I don't think is going to happen every night. But man, if he can, put some points on the board, this is going to be a really interesting pick. So Amir Kofi, only 5% rostered. I'm probably going to have to add him soon. I know it's Kennard. So Luke Kennard's going to be the guy coming back, I guess, if he can hold off Kennard. Interesting. So monitor Amir Kofi. Again, he's been averaging a healthy 34 points per game the last 7 days. You have Jonathan Kaminga coming in here, the small forward, power forward here. In his last 3 games, so a 26, a 45, and a 27, and he's only not even 7% rostered. But you look at these last 3 games here, a 26 and a 27 as his low points, and a 45. That's going to be kind of his range. So this is a guy that needs to be Kaminga. If he can continue these minutes between 19 and if somewhere in the mid-20s, he needs to average off. And if he can get 20 minutes plus per game, it's looking like an interesting ad there. I'm going to kind of skip some of these guys. Josh Hart, he's about 45% rostered, but he's averaging 33 points per game over the last 7 days. Justin Holiday, not sure what's up with him, but he's been looking like the minutes have been really steady for a long time here. And you look at the points department, not the greatest rebounder, assister, but the steals and the blocks, they come every now and then. So he's kind of got, like around a 20-point floor. Not sure what happened in these 6 and 5 point games here, but lately, this is probably a guy that needs to be rostered in 10 and 12 man leagues. Mitchell Robinson made the list there. He is 63% rostered, but he needs to be picked up in 8 or 10 man leagues if he's available. There's Otto Porter. We talked about him. Aaron Gordon needs to be rostered. He's only 44% rostered, but he's averaging over 30 points per game in the last 7 days. We talked about Giddey. A guy like Brandon Clark, only 41% rostered. He's averaging 29 points per game. Patrick Beverley, interesting player here. He's popped up on the list the last couple of weeks, but he's averaging 28.6 fantasy points per game, and he's under 20% rostered. So he's a player that needs to be added. And then everybody else on this list here is under 60%. So starting with Eric Gordon, everyone's under 60% rostered. And guess what? All these guys are averaging everyone except Jalen Suggs here. It's over 25 points per game. So that's Eric Gordon, Franz Wagner, Trey Lyles, Jay Crowder, Grayson Allen, Larry Markkinen. DeAndre Hunter has been an interesting guy with the, subtraction of what's our guy there, Cam Reddish. And then Darius Bazley here for the OKC Thunder. Interesting player to look at. And then Jalen Suggs. So I mentioned some of the guys at the top of the list that really intrigued me. I think that's going to do it for this video. Next week we'll cover some more guys and get into some hopefully a new watch list for you. But check for that next week. For Thursday night, we're going to be going live with John and Drake, so come back and check that out. Let me know if you guys have anything to add to the waiver wire watch list. If there's anyone I missed, please let me know. And if you guys have a special person that you want to shout out, in the waiver wire watch list, do that as well. I'm open to seeing if I missed anyone or if you guys got anyone to add to the list. So thank you for your time. Have a good rest of your evening, and we'll see you guys later. Peace.